Hola a todos, bienvenidos. El día de hoy estaremos haciendo una reacción, pero de muchos Legos. Sí, va a ser un video largo. Así que comencemos. Dije que va a ser de Lego, ¿verdad? Sí, dije que va a ser de Lego, ¿verdad? Lego está así. No, un anuncio, Dios, los anuncios.
The Lego Battle Droid, and this is the Lego Clone Trooper attacking the Battle Droid. And today I will build the most iconic battles from Star Wars in Lego. Over the past years, I built gigantic armies and don't do much with the minifigures other than storing them in my drawers. So let's make this.
No sé cuántos entenderán, pero yo entiendo todo lo que dice.
First of all, we need to visit episode 1 of Star Wars, and we'll build the battle between the Gungans and the droid army. I started by grabbing 36 free base plates and made a large block of brass. This really makes me think of Minecraft in some way. Then I placed all of them on the table, and now it's time to set up the armies. So I grabbed all
dejen su like quienes entiendan todo lo que están diciendo. O al menos, bueno, dejen su like el que entienda un poco de lo que están diciendo.
I also added these to the army, and now it looks a lot more complete. And I just had to add Jar Jar Binks near the back of the card as a reference to the clumsy scene in the movie. Now that the Gungan army is ready to defend Naboo, we can start setting up the droid army. First, the droids try to weaken the chute with the AATs. So I also have to get some of these vehicles, but I only have one. So I went on another spending spree and got some parts to build 3 of the AAT sets, and now I can finally set up this scene. And I love how accurate this is to the movie. Afterwards, the droid army sends in the MTT, so I grabbed my 3 2007 MTT sets and set them up and opened them. So I grabbed a bag filled with my entire droid army and set them up in a way like they're just starting to march towards the Gungans. The droid army exists out of 200 regular battle droids versus this small amount of Gungans. I don't think this is a fair fight, but we all know who wins.
Sí, yo también sé quién gana.
In Attack of the Clones, one of my favorite scenes has to be the Battle of Geonosis, and therefore I'm building this battle in Lego. For this we're going to need a lot of dark orange plates, but since I don't have any and they're quite expensive, I'm gonna use my light bluish gray base plates instead. So I grabbed all the plates, and now it's time to add all the minifigures for this epic battle. We're gonna start by deploying the clone army, and in the movie we can see many clone troopers, and luckily I have over 900 of the Phase 1 clone troopers. So I set up a massive amount of these minifigures and also 2 ATT sets along with a Republic gunship with our heroes inside. Unfortunately, I couldn't add a second pilot because Lego only included 1 in the 2013 set. Really, Lego? All that's left to do is set up some sergeants and Jedi, and now the army is complete. After placing all the clones, we need to build a droid army. So first of all, I grabbed a homing spider droid and then added a bunch of regular battle droids because I only have 2 from Geonosis. Then I added 2 of the Corporate Alliance tank droids, 3 of the dwarf spider droids, super battle droids, and finally this weird Hellfire droid from 2015. Man, I wish I had the older one. Now that both armies have been placed, the battle can commence. There's an intense battle going on between the clones and droids. We can see the ATTs getting closer and the droids getting destroyed by the clones. Who will win this battle? The Grand Army of the Republic. To close off the prequels, I want to build one of my favorite battles, the Battle of Kashyyyk. This takes place at a beach, so I used blue, tan, and green plates to make this entire landscaping, and now we can add some water. So I placed a bricklink order and quickly received the package. I opened it, and there are over 1,400 of these dark blue translucent studs. Now we can finally make some epic water, so I added the studs on top of the blue plates, and it looks way better like this. Unfortunately, even this amount of studs isn't enough to cover all the plates. For the minifigures, I started by placing these custom-made barriers for the troopers to set up their defenses. There's many Kashyyyk troopers running towards the beach and even some rushing in on their swamp speeders from 2014. Now we're gonna add some big vehicles, so I added not 1 AT-AP but 4 and also set up 2 clone turbo tanks, aka the Juggernauts. And you might be wondering, what about the Wookiees? Well, I added a bunch of them behind the middle barrier, and I love the way this small army looks. Now that all the clones and the Wookiees are ready for battle, let's set up the next army. For the droid army, I added 5 of my droid carriers, which I got a long time ago back in 2015-16, as well as a couple of the Corporate Alliance tank droids, which are epic vehicles. Next up, I wanted to add some aerial support for my army, so I added these droid gunships flying over. Additionally, I set up a droid army walking onto the beach, even though we can't see this in the movie. And last but not least, I added these dwarf spider droids because I really like the scene where you can see one crawling out of the water and attacking the clone troopers. And with that, we've built the entire Battle of Kashyyyk with many clone troopers, Wookiees, and droids fighting with each other, and I must say that this battle looks pretty sick, especially this droid gunship. Next up, we're entering the original trilogy, but for episode 4, I couldn't think of any battle to recreate in LEGO. So we'll create the battle before A New Hope begins, the Battle of Scarif. For this, I added my blue plates and made a little beach with some grass and palm trees. I also added the Imperial Bunker, which I modified 3 years ago, so I don't have the original set anymore. Next up, I added all the rebels around the entire build, but the Empire is alerted, so Director Krennic sends in a massive army to defend the base. For this, I set up all my stormtroopers and even placed a lot of stormtroopers with battle-damaged armor. My favorite troopers from Rogue One are the short troopers, so I added a bunch of these along with some TIE strikers and an AT-AT. The rebellion is surrounded, but luckily I have a U-Wing, Y-Wing, and an A-Wing to come to the rescue. The overall battle looks really cool with many different minifigures fighting each other. There's rebel troopers fighting stormtroopers, but they're losing. And Director Krennic sees a massive object appear from hyperspace. As promised in my previous video, I'm going to recreate Ned dropping the Death Star in Spider-Man. I really don't want to do this, guys, but I must. Whoa, I forgot this thing was that heavy. What have I done? So now that my Death Star is destroyed again, I guess I'll build it for the 3rd time. The Battle of Hoth is an iconic scene, and therefore we have to build it in LEGO. After unpacking and placing all of these white base plates, I grabbed my Echo base set from 2016 and some extra trenches. There's a bunch of different rebel troopers as well as the one behind this big blaster. The rebels await the Imperial army, so I set up all my snow troopers and even have 2 speeders, but we need way more. So I built an additional 9 and added them to the army. Finally, I added the AT-AT and now the battle is complete. There's over 60 snow troopers trying to invade the base and the rebels can barely defend themselves. The AT-AT destroys the power cells, but the rebels take revenge by sending some snow speeders and destroying the AT-AT. For the final battle of the original trilogy, we're gonna visit the forest moon of Endor. For this, I have a table filled with green base plates, and a set we can't miss is the Ewok village. On top of that, there's an Imperial bunker in the movie, and this Lego set is quite expensive. So I gathered some parts from my personal collection, placed more bricklink orders, and built a bunker myself. You know, we need to save money for the clone army, boys and girls. I placed Han and Leia at the bunker doors, along with some rebels trying to escape. For the Empire, I added a massive army of stormtroopers and an AT-ST surrounding the rebels. They're having a hard time defending themselves against these highly trained troopers. And as if this isn't enough, there's backup coming. So I set up another army from the Stormtrooper Corps of 60 Stormtroopers. On top of that, the Scout Troopers somewhere else get signaled to help, but are on their way. The Ewoks trap them and take them prisoner, so that's a win for the rebellion. The battle is quite large, and even though there aren't any trees because I forgot to add them, I think it looks so cool with all the Stormtroopers and rebels fighting each other and the nice Ewok village in the back. However, there's one thing missing. My Death Star is partially destroyed, so I think it looks quite similar to the second Death Star, and now I don't have to buy the official one anymore. So now we're gonna visit the sequels, and even though many people dislike the movies, we're still gonna recreate these battles. For episode 7, I'm going to build the Battle of Takodana. For this, I added the official set along with a bunch of random pieces to make some ruins. The First Order is on the way, so I set up 4 of my transporters and a massive army running out. For the good guys, I created the scene where Han takes Chewie's blaster, and I also included the battle between Finn and his comrade. Additionally, there's a bunch of Resistance fighters fighting off some stormtroopers. I also added the small force with Rey and Kylo Ren. With all the minifigures set up on the ground, all we have to do is add some X-Wings on the water and these First Order TIE fighters, and now the battle looks complete. There's an intense battle on the ground as well as one in the air. Luckily, Poe is a good pilot and the TIE fighters get destroyed. For episode 8, we're gonna build the Battle of Crate. So I started by adding the set along with some Resistance troopers manning the defenses. Then I placed my Resistance army running towards the First Order as well as the Monoski and the Millennium Falcon. Unfortunately, I don't have the big bunker, so you'll have to imagine it's behind the army. Now it's time to add the First Order army. So I placed a bunch of these First Order snow troopers as well as my ATM-6, and unfortunately I only have one since I sold my other 3 to buy more clone troopers. Even so, with a couple of TIE fighters, we can make this battle look a lot cooler. From a distance, we can see a lot going on. There's many snow troopers running towards the bunker, and the Resistance is defending the base at all costs. There's a lot of blaster fire going on, resulting in casualties on both sides. Luckily, the Millennium Falcon will help save the day, but I think Chewie is a bit deaf because all of the screaming. For the final battle, we're gonna travel to Exegol, and this battle is gonna be more of a meme, basically. So in the movie, we can see Finn and the Stormtrooper deserters riding on space horses, so I'm gonna recreate this weird scene in Lego. So I grabbed my Imperial Star Destroyer and added Finn on top of the horse. Then I placed many Final Order troopers to surround him, and now the battle looks just like in the movie. There's some regular Final Order troopers, as well as a couple of jet troopers flying through the sky. But let's make this even more accurate to the movie. So these were all the Star Wars battles I wanted to build in Lego. And if you have any suggestions for battles you want me to recreate in Lego, let me know. Because I have enough troopers to create them so you can enjoy watching. Anyway, I'm gonna work on my next video, so I'll see you there.
Haz que cualquier foto cante.
Soon may the Weller man come to bring us sugar and tea.
In this video, I built a Star Wars planet with a giant clone base using 100,000 Lego pieces to simulate a war between a clone and droid army. Let's build. So, this story starts with building the planet. So I grabbed my Lego pieces and spent over 200 hours building this gigantic Lego clone base. But the entire base is inside of a big mountain, which in real life almost reaches my ceiling and is way taller than me. There's a clone army stationed here, and our protagonist, Cloney. He's a clone specialist and loves to work out. In the middle of the base, there's a big hangar door, which can open and close, and more importantly, there's enough space for gunships and other vehicles to fit through. This way, the clones can call in some reinforcements. Inside the base, there's 2 floors with many features, which we're going to take a look at. On the first floor, there's a big hangar where the Republic can store ATTs and a Republic gunship. There's also some crates with blasters. This way, the clones can always grab a weapon to shoot some invaders. There's also some charging docks where they can fuel up the vehicles, and I also added this assembly area in the middle of the base where all the clones can come together to get their patrols assigned by the captain. That day, Cloney got assigned to sanitation crew and had to sweep the floors. So after cleaning the entire hangar, which took forever, he can go to the second floor and get ready for duty. The first room he visits is the dining area. For this, I added a bunch of round tables where the clones can take their breaks and have a good meal. There's a server area where the clone cook makes some daily soup and a bunch of vegetables, fruits, and protein for the clones in their bulky diet. After having a good meal, Cloney moves to the gym where he can work out. There's this area with treadmills for some cardio, and Cloney has to run 20 miles every day because otherwise his commander will get him to clean the toilets. On the other side of the gym, we can find a few clones getting a PR on bench press and some pull-up bars to get a wide back. There's this big selection of weights and a small server with protein so the clones can bulk up even more. The clones need to put their strength to the test, so I built some monkey bars for them to swing on and a vertical wall with a net so they need to climb over. Unfortunately for Cloney, it's leg day, so he's going to need to do some squats. After this workout, he needs to take a shower because of all of the sweating. For this, I built a shower room with these cool shower heads made from leftover pieces in my collection. Additionally, there's a general washing area along with a swimming pool so the clones can swim some laps. In the corner, there's 3 toilets which are really dirty. Cloney takes a shower and puts his armor back on. Now he needs to get his weapon kit for patrol since he only has 10 minutes left. For the sleeping hole, I added a bunch of bunk beds along with some crates full of weapons so the clones can reach their gear easily. Cloney sleeps here every day, and sometimes he can't sleep because this guy Boomer next to him snores really loudly. He grabs his equipment and heads out for patrol, so now we're building the rest of the planet. In the front of the base, there's a local village with all kinds of aliens trading and having a good life. There are some fishermen and even livestock. To defend the village, I built a small rocky landscape in front with a trench where all the clones can take defense duty and play some poker. There are some areas to sit, and some clones even sleep here because they're so tired. The trench is positioned so the clones have the tactical advantage against invaders. Next up, I built the rest of the planet. There's a lot of fields filled with grass and a forest in the back. In the middle, there's a big river, and the clones built this bridge to cross it. There's also a Republic outpost near the edge of the forest, which is quite a simple design but helpful for guarding this sector. It's Cloney's job to make sure these areas are secure, since the regions beyond the forest are in the hands of the droids. Cloney and his squad need to check if the fishermen and the clone outpost near the edge of the forest are secure. So Cloney starts his patrol to go check on the fishermen first. They're in a boat on the water, collecting some fish for the village. village. Everything seems okay, so the clones move on to the outpost next. The walls aren't manned, and there's a clone laying on the ground. Cloney and his partner go check on the clone, but he's dead. However, Cloney does see some sort of weird map leading to a factory outside of the forest. Then suddenly, they notice a separatist flag on the outpost and hear sounds coming from the forest. And a huge droid army appears and kills most of Cloney's squad members. They manage to kill some droids and run back to the bridge to warn the fishermen. As the clones retreat to the bridge, 3 MTTs appear out of the forest and deploy a legion of droids. Now that the droids are ready to invade the Republic territory, Cloney and his squad are instructed to blow up the bridge. So they place a thermal detonator and run to the trench. Cloney presses the button, but the bridge doesn't blow. There seems to be a malfunction, so now the droids start crossing the bridge. The clones ready their blasters, man the turrets, and evacuate the village. Cloney calls for backup from the base, since they're outnumbered. An intense blaster fight erupts, and the clones eliminate most of the droids. Then suddenly, more droids are deployed, and the clones are outnumbered. They start losing numbers and have to retreat to the village. However, Cloney decides to pull some clone troopers to the offensive and motivates them. They jump out of the trench and create a spearhead on the battlefield. By now, support is on the way. All the clones in the base get woken up and assemble in the hangar. There's 100 clones ready to battle, and there's even some heavy troopers ready to bring in the big guns. Some other clones stay behind to monitor the war and the vitals of the soldiers. I got these epic holograms from Tag, so go check his stuff out. The clones are ready for the offensive and run out of the base. There's also 3 ATT walkers coming out of the base, as well as some Republic fighter tanks. The ATTs position themselves and fire at the droid army. So next up, the droids call in air support. The clones get their anti-air cannons ready and fire at the gunships and manage to hit one. The other gunship flies towards an ATT and drops a load of bombs, destroying the ATT. Because of this victory, the droids were able to overrun the trench on the far left side. The clones take up defensive positions in the village and prepare to make a final stand at the door of the base. The middle and right section of the trench are still holding on, but then the droids send in their Alliance tank droids and super battle droids. The clones' defensive lines get destroyed, so they have to retreat to the village, where they hide behind walls of destroyed buildings. Some clones manage to get to high ground and set up their snipers to pick off the droids one by one. The clones manage to defend the village because there's a lot of cover, but at one moment, when Cloney looks through his binoculars, he sees a few droids loading a giant bomb into a gunship near the forest. He immediately sounds the alarm and reaches the clones inside the base. They need to send the gunship to take out the droid bomber. The clones rush into the gunship but only have one pilot left. Nonetheless, they take off and exit the base into airspace. The droids notice the gunship and bring AATs to fire at the gunship. There's a successful hit and the gunship crashes down into the forest. The clones' final hope at destroying the gunship is gone, and they have to retreat to the base. As the final clones prepare to leave the village, the shadow of a gunship flies over them. All the droids get ready to invade and take over this fortress, which will be a great victory for the Separatists. Just as the clones get ready to surrender, they hear explosions coming from the forest. Captain Rex and the 501st come through the forest and ambush the droid army from the back. This part of the droid army gets destroyed, and then Commander Cody drops down from the mountain and encircles the entire droid army together with Captain Rex. I also want to mention, I got this Phase 2 Captain Rex minifigure along with many other clones from OG LEGO collectors, so go and follow him on Instagram. With this victory, the Republic once more holds these territories, and thanks to Captain Rex and Commander Cody, this planet is safe again. Cloney also gets rewarded for his bravery and becomes a clone commander. Now that the planet is safe, the aliens can once again live their lives in peace and trade. Cloney mentions he saw a map leading to a droid factory. Captain Rex and Commander Cody promise to help Cloney in his quest to destroy the droid factory. After fighting in this war, Cloney can't wait to... In this video, I'm building a giant Star Wars planet with a LEGO droid factory with a working production line and thousands of battle droids. And we'll tell you the story of a LEGO clone trooper fighting in an epic battle. Now let's build. This video is sponsored by War Thunder. This story starts with a clone trooper named Cloney, and he's traveling through a forest on this giant planet I built in LEGO. Cloney is searching for a droid factory, which we will build on the other side of the planet. For this, I grabbed some plates and a whole bin full of big ugly rock pieces and made a giant mountain for the droid factory. In the middle, I added a big doorway, and to make it way cooler, I added some Technic pieces, a motor, and now the door can open automatically.
Here we can store vehicles like the MTT, in which you can place 16 battle droids. For the tanks, I made 4 AATs and added some charging docks along with a couple of droids who are repairing them for the next battle. To the left, we can find 2 of these droid gunships. The droids have prepared a lot of vehicles for war, but now they must create a droid army to take over the entire planet. So next, we're building the factory line. For this, we're using these tank tire tracks. I added a conveyor belt and added some wheels, so now it actually works. And now we can add motorized parts. So I really hope this works. Sweet, it does. So I made a bunch more. Now we can start building this droid army. First, the droid bodies are loaded onto the conveyor belt. Then the machine adds heads. And in the next section, the machine adds both arms and legs. And at the end of the line, I placed the bin to collect all of the battle droids. And now we've built a giant Lego droid army. And the Separatists also decided to make a super battle droid army, but we'll see that in action later on. On the top floor, we can find a prison where all the clones taken prisoner in the last battle have to sleep in these gross beds. Every day, they have to wake up after only 3 hours of sleep and enter the mine. Here, the clones have to mine for materials which are needed to make battle droids. During their short 5-minute break, they get some calories to keep going, but I wouldn't ask about the ingredients if I were you. Ugh. Then, in the final room, we can find a command center of the entire droid base. Here, there are a bunch of consoles with droids operating them. Sometimes, the consoles get broken and the conveyor belt stops. And with that, the entire droid factory is finished. In the meantime, Cloney and his company of clones are traveling through the forest. They are still unaware of where the droid factory is located, so they must travel further. Then, they finally reach the edge of the forest. But here, they have to cross a river, which I filled with a bunch of these blue studs. The clones decide to take off their armor and go for a swim. Next, there's a wide open field full of grass along with a mountainside where the clones can find a canyon. There's a few bushes and some trees without leaves, which makes this look pretty scary. He decides the clones will set up base here and continue exploring the next day. There's a big empty area next to the mountain wall, so they will build a temporary base there. So I built the base, and I also added this opening door from the life of a stormtrooper in Lego. Inside the base, I started adding some tiles for the floor, and this is always so satisfying to do. For the first room, I made these terminals for a communication center and placed them on both sides of the room. And I also made these hologram tables. Now we can work on the cantina. Here, I added a bunch of tables, and now the clones can enjoy some good food. You can shove in this floor, and now we're building a gym. I placed 3 of these treadmills so the clones can stay in top condition. Cloney runs 10 miles every day, and he also does bench press along with doing 1,000 sit-ups. Cloney is a real Chad. Cloney needs to relax, so he grabs his gaming PC and starts playing War Thunder. This is the most comprehensive vehicle combat game you can play for free on PC and consoles. Command your military machines from the 1920s to today's fighter jets and battle tanks. There are over 2,500 vehicles you can choose from, including tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships. Cloney will choose a tank and fight in epic battles. Every vehicle is modeled down to individual components like a Lego set, and you can even personalize your vehicle with camouflages and other decorations. When you destroy a vehicle or get hit yourself, War Thunder's X-ray view shows exactly what happened. War Thunder also has a mode for every type of player. So go play War Thunder by using my link, just like Cloney, and you can even get 100,000 silver lions to spend in-game and unlock premium vehicles and the Eagle of Valor decoration, and 7 days of a premium account. Cloney really recommends it. Cloney needs to sleep, so next I built a sleeping hall where all the clones can sleep. And I added this toilet where you can sit while everyone is sleeping. And now, Cloney can go to bed. For his next mission, Cloney must travel through the valley. He will lead a squad of 9 clone troopers to discover what's out there. The clones travel through the canyon, and it's quiet, but then they see a squad of 8 battle droids patrolling at the end of the canyon. They quickly sneak up on them and take them out. The droids came from somewhere, so they must be nearby, Cloney thinks. They enter a big open plain, and then they hide behind rocks and see a giant mountain and some movement in the distance. Cloney grabs his binoculars and sees droids marching. Then he sees a big door. This must be the droid factory they've been looking for all this time. Some droids are guarding captive clones to go inside the base and work to mine. Cloney needs to save them, and they also decide that they need to infiltrate the base and destroy all of the production lines so the planet will stay safe. Cloney and his squad hide behind the rocks. Then the door opens and a giant droid army marches out. They appear to prepare an invasion of the rest of the planet, and Cloney can't let that happen. So they sneak in and hide behind a couple of crates. They must stop them before more droids are made. Next, they go up to the first floor. Here, they see a few droids operating the controls of the conveyor belts. There are only a few battle droids to take out, and then they can press the red button. So they sneak up behind the droids and take them out. Then they remember the droids taking the clones into the base, and Cloney says they have to free them. The clones go up to the prison and have to take out the guards.
The clones make their way to the hangar, and suddenly a camera picks up movement and the droids sound alarm. The clones open the door and escape, but then the droids send out a battalion to fight them. Clooney's plan worked because the backup has arrived, and Captain Rex sent a company of 144 clones, and they placed cannons on top of the hills. Inside the valley, the clones march towards battle, along with 2 ATTs coming for support. The clones get behind the rocks and fire at the incoming droid army. Then, Clooney calls in air support, and a Republic gunship arrives to bomb the droids. The droids call in air support too, and 2 droid gunships get deployed. Luckily, almost all of the droids are defeated, but then they hear the door opening and see a giant army of super battle droids coming out. They fire at the clones and pick them off one by one. The ATTs fire at the super battle droids and take them out. Clooney looks through his binoculars and sees the droids loading up a bomb, and then the gunship takes off and flies towards the ATT. The clones have to retreat and take cover in the valley. But then suddenly the droids deploy a second army and the clones are ambushed from behind. They've been surrounded. The droids close in on them and the clones inside the base are trying to help. But they can't open the door without the base being invaded. Captain Rex calls for backup, but they have to wait and hold out until help arrives. In the meantime, Clooney and his squad manage to fight their way to the clone outpost and quickly go inside the base. The droid army surrounds the base, and in the meantime, all the cannons have been taken out. The droids are getting ready to blast the door and all hope is lost. But then they hear blaster fire and the backup army has arrived along with 2 ATTs. The clones run through the forest and cross the river to fight the droids. And they also send in many heavy troopers. On top of the mountains there are snipers to pick up some droids. Clooney and all of the rest open the door and run out to fight the droids. But watch out, the AATs will blast them. Luckily the ATT fires and both of the tanks explode. That was close. Then Clooney links up with the rest of the troopers and they join forces to take back the valley. The clones charge into the valley and all the droids are being picked off one by one. Then they finish off the last super battle droids and oh boy, did they kill many. Clooney sits on a mountain of clankers and he goes inside the base to discuss a plan. The droids are producing a new army and it won't stop until they fully destroy the factory. Clooney says they will have to take over the base. They go outside and see the entire clone army ready to attack the base. All the clones travel through the valley for a second time and see all of their fallen comrades. Then they arrive in front of the droid factory and the droids deploy a brand new army. Clooney and the clones create a spearhead and then they give the signal to fire the nuclear missile.
Tactical nuke incoming!
The clones destroyed the factory, and now Clooney can get back to lifting weights in the gym. He has to get ripped for his next adventure, which is coming very soon. And if you want to recreate your own battles, remember to check out War Thunder for free on PC, PlayStation, or even Xbox, using my link in the pinned comment or the video description. And you can even get 100,000 silver lines to spend in-game, unlock premium vehicles, and the Eagle of Valor decoration, and 7 days of a premium account. Thanks to War Thunder for sponsoring this video. And I'll see you guys in the next video.
Against prototype and an Imperial. Every Lego Star Wars army I out of and things off by heading to out of one. Imperial army is actually the smallest. So over the next 7 days, I'm going to be doing everything I can to grow it. Out of every Lego Star Wars army I have, my Imperial army is actually the smallest. So over the next 7 days, I'm going to be doing everything I can to grow it in both size and variety. Let's not waste any time here and get straight into day one.
Wow. Day on.
My wife Charity joined me for day one and we started things off by heading to our local bricks and minifigs. I checked out the fig case to see what their selection looked like and bought a few things. I also grabbed a few built sets that we'll check out once we get back home. And since they had them, I grabbed 2 Snowtrooper battle packs because I want to make sure that I have enough to fill my UCS AT-AT someday. Next we headed over to Costco. They had a few good deals but nothing Imperial that I wanted to buy. I was tempted to buy this pinball machine but I decided that we should probably keep moving on to the next place after Charity got this rather large plant that we now had to fit in our car. We hit up Target to see what they had in stock and I grabbed a couple base plates for the army. After Target, we went to Meijer. There wasn't anything on sale here, but I was able to grab the remaining base plates I needed and we headed back to the house. Once we got home, I assembled the 2 pre-owned sets that I bought and checked them out to make sure everything was looking good. The first set I got was the Imperial V-Wing, which came complete with the V-Wing pilot and an astromech droid. The other ship I got was a TIE fighter. I've been wanting one of these specific specific models for a while, so I was excited that they had it in stock at Bricks and Minifigs. As far as loose minifigures go, I picked up this Shadow Trooper and an Imperial Officer. Next, I moved on to opening up the 2 Snowtrooper battle packs so I could pull the figs out. I really like the Snowtroopers in these battle packs, and I think the Scout Troopers look great as well. I might just need to break out the rest of my Snowtrooper battle packs from storage for this video. I got everything lined up on a base plate, and this is where we stand at the end of day 1. Not too bad for a first day, but we still got a lot of work to do. To kick off day 2, I had a couple packages to get into that I was pretty excited about. The first one was a bunch of Scout Troopers that I ordered off of Bricklink. I got them all assembled pretty quickly. I love the look of these Scout Troopers. Probably one of the best looking figures made in recent years if you ask me. I ordered a few Ground Troopers a while ago and I've been waiting for an opportunity to use them. These look super clean and they're going to be perfect for an Imperial base build someday. I also picked up a few Stormtrooper mechs, so I decided to start working my way into those by building 2 of them. I like the white hips on these newer Stormtroopers. It's not a huge difference from the recent ones, but I'm definitely a fan. Getting all these figures added onto the base plate was super satisfying, and I feel like I'm in a good place at the end of day 2. Day 3 started out with a 1-hour drive to the Bricks and Minifigs in a neighboring city so I could check out what they had in stock. They had quite a few decent options at their store, so I picked a few things up and I headed back home. I was pretty excited with my purchase of this TIE Striker from the Bricks and Minifigs in Kalamazoo. I loved this ship in Rogue One, and it is way bigger than I expected it to be in person. The ship came complete with minifigs, which on the Imperial side included this Imperial ground crew figure, a pilot for the ship, and this shore trooper captain, which I love the look of. I would like Lego to make these figures again sometime because they have such a cool design. I also picked up this Rebel Stormtrooper, a Shadow Stormtrooper, an Imperial officer in this dark tan outfit, and one more in a standard outfit as well. Today's pickups really help out with diversifying the army because I don't have a lot of these figures, so I feel like things are moving along pretty well. I made a quick stop by my local Bricks and Minifigs again to see if they had anything new in stock. To my surprise, they actually had the TIE Advanced prototype complete with its figures. This is a cool looking ship, but I'm most excited about the Grand Inquisitor minifigure that comes with it. The helmet looks great, and I'm happy to finally add this guy to my collection. I also got this TIE Pilot, another Imperial officer, and this Death Trooper, which I wish was still in production because these guys are not cheap anymore. Now it's time to do something that I've been waiting almost a year for. I got this UCS AT-AT for my birthday last year, and this seems like the perfect opportunity to build it. I got started with the build, and as I was going, I started to realize just how large this thing was going to be. I made it through bag 4 and ended up getting to this point. I got all my figures from today added to the base plate, and that's it for day 4. I spent all the free time I had on day 5 just working on the UCS AT-AT. I've seen it in person before, but I think when you start building something like this, it really takes your understanding to another level. This model is gigantic. I managed to finish the legs and move on to the main body of the model, which was nice because the legs were a little bit repetitive to build. I was able to add 3 more figures to the army since some of the bags from today came with minifigures. I got 2 more standard snowtroopers, and I also got this snowtrooper captain, which looks basically the same as the other minifigures apart from the rank badge on his chest. This is as far as I got on the AT-AT today. Some good progress, but I definitely have a lot more building to get done. I started off by continuing my work on the AT-AT. I got the interior finished off, which was nicely detailed, and I attached the body to the legs, and then I decided to give myself a bit of a break from the AT-AT. I picked up this TIE Interceptor set when it came out, and I've been waiting to build it. It was nice to switch things up after so many hours of working on the same thing. I have to say that this model looks awesome. I'm very happy with the design, and I really like the scale of this ship too. This set came with a pilot and an astromech droid, which will make great additions to the army. I've got a lot to do today, so I enlisted some help. We got started with opening 8 snowtrooper battle packs and pulling all the figures out of them for the army. Thankfully, the package from Tommy C. Bricks arrived in time. He sent me 50 of the new Stormtrooper paper bags, and I couldn't be more grateful. Make sure you guys go check out his channel and give him a sub because he makes some awesome videos. I also got another package with 10 Dark Troopers in it, which will be a great way to boost the numbers in the army. I had 4 more mechs that I picked up, so we worked on getting those built real quick, and then I moved back to finishing up the UCS AT-AT. I have to say that this build took me quite a bit longer than I initially anticipated it would, but this is totally worth it. The amount of detail included is pretty insane, and the final model looks amazing. I'm so glad that I was finally able to build this, and I can't wait to make a custom shelf display for this build so I can keep it in the background of every video I make going forward. For a few final additions to the army, I built 2 of these snow speeders as part of the UCS AT-AT. It also came with General Veers and 2 of these drivers, which look great. Now that the challenge is over, it's time to get the full army set up and add in all of my...
¿Para qué cogiste otros? Y acá en el fondo tienes 2. Ahí hay uno y acá... No se alcanza a ver, pero hay otro.
Existing figure.
¿Ven? Ya, acá hay 2 AT-AT. O AT-AT. Ah, que son más chiquitos estos. Aunque más baratos.
See what kind of progress has been made. This is always my favorite part of making these videos, so let's check it out.
Así que gasto menos, ¿no? Wow.
I split the army into 3 main sections. Starting on the left here, we have all of the Rogue One related figures along with Rebels and Star Wars TV show related things. Leading the army is Thrawn with Krennic and the Grand Inquisitor by his side. On the left, we have the Dark Tan Imperial officers, the Imperial ground crew, a hover tank pilot, various TIE pilots, and the V-Wing pilot. In the middle, we have a Death Trooper commander leading a squad of Death Troopers, followed by some Shore Troopers. On the right is the 5th brother, the old Grand Inquisitor, Reva, and behind them are the Dark Troopers. In the back section, we have various Imperial droids, and behind them is a squad of Scout Troopers with a Gonk droid. The ships represented here are the Inquisitor's Transport Scythe, TIE Interceptor, TIE Striker, Imperial V-Wing, TIE Advanced Prototype, and an Imperial hover tank. In the middle of the army, we have the Hoth section. There are a few generals leading this segment of the army along with some drivers. All of the Hoth scout troopers are on the left-hand side, and the rest of the figures here are snow troopers. Behind the figures, there are 2 snow speeders, a probe droid, AT-ST, and the UCS AT-AT. On the right-hand side of the army, I have all of the stormtroopers. They're being led by Vader and Palpatine. On the left, we have some of the higher-ranking Imperial officers, and to their right are some more officers and a couple of gunners. Behind Vader and Palpatine are a few Shadow Troopers and some more Stormtrooper variants, including a Shock Trooper, Mimban Trooper, Mortar Trooper, and some Imperial Patrol Troopers. These are all surrounded by a number of standard Stormtroopers. Behind this section of the army are the Stormtrooper mechs. I also have a TIE Bomber, Imperial Shuttle, which I would love to have in minifigure scale someday, and 2 TIE Fighters. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you check out my Clone Army challenge here, or if you like droids, you can check out my droid army over here. Otherwise, my collection of droids is pretty minimal. I just got back into LEGO in 2020, and that means I've missed out on a ton of great sets over the last 15 years. And this whole situation really isn't helped out by 2 things. First of all, LEGO hasn't put out more than 1 Separatist LEGO set in the last 3 years. And on top of that, the droids that have been included in other sets have had no variety between them. I make my own Star Wars builds, and I always need droids to fight against my clones. That's why over the next 7 days, I'm going to challenge myself to grow my droid army as quickly as possible in both variety and quantity. I've got some fun things planned for this video, as well as a couple sources to help me make some pretty significant progress here. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. So day 1, I'm hoping to hit the ground running today and make some good progress. We actually have a brand new Bricks and Minifigs opening up here in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And this is the first one that we have in our city. So I'm pretty excited about that. So I'm going to head on over there for their grand opening and see if they've got any droids in stock. I'm also going to be looking for Separatist vehicles, anything that I can get to add some variety to and beef out my droid army. After spending a couple hours waiting in line in the cold, we finally got to head into the store, and I was happy to see a wide selection of figures available. available. There were a few droids here that I didn't have in my collection yet, as well as a number of other minifigures that interested me. So I picked up a few extra figures in addition to what I had originally planned on getting. So it was a pretty good grand opening. I probably spent about an hour and a half in the store. I picked through the bulk table and checked out some of the figures and definitely picked up a couple of fun ones here. I may have gotten a little bit distracted, but let's take a look at what we got. All right, so we ended up with some pretty fun figures here. Not all droids like I had planned, but they had a couple figures that I just couldn't pass up that I've been missing from my collection. So first off, we got a Kanan Jarrus here. Also picked up these Rebel Troopers. I think these guys may have been in a battle pack at one point. I could be wrong about that, but I don't have any of these dudes, so definitely had to get a couple of those guys. All right, on to the important stuff. So I don't have any of these droids, I think, in my collection so far. So I managed to pick up one of the security droids. We got a rocket droid here with one of the backpacks that they've got. And then I also picked up one of these blue pilot droids. Another fun one we got here is a buzz droid. I don't have any of these. These guys I think you see in episode 3 dismantling Anakin's ship, so that's a pretty fun one to pick up too. So let's go ahead and get these guys set up on the base plate and we'll keep on moving forward. All in all here, not too bad for day 1. We've definitely got some good variety even though we don't have a ton of quantity here. But I've got some great stuff planned out for this week coming ahead here and some really good ideas for how we can beef the army up going forward. Let's keep it rolling and get on to day 2. Welcome to day 3. Obviously we're missing out on content from day 2 at this point. That's mostly just because I've skipped over filming some of that stuff. It was just placing a couple of Bricklink orders and doing some prep work for stuff coming later this week, but it was totally necessary. This means that we've got some awesome stuff coming in the mail. It's going to help beef up the army and add some variety as well.
General Grey con sus 4 brazos y
Also, I'm really excited for that stuff.
Capitán Cody. Para Clone Trooper, clone.
Coming in later this week. So stick around and make sure you check out that later in this video. But for now, we're going to head over to DNA Bricks. They're a local Lego resale store here in Grand Rapids, Michigan. We're going to see if they've got any droids for sale. We're going to see if they've got some separatist vehicles. Hopefully we'll have some luck there since we weren't able to really find anything at Bricks and Minifigs on Saturday. But without further ado, let's head on over.
Podemos llegar hasta hoy. Es que ya me cansé. Bueno, adiós, suscríbanse.